God bless you. Let us continue our study on evolution and Bible. According to evolution theory, the Big Bang happened about 20 billion years ago, and Earth came in existence about 4.6 billion years ago. And humankind evolved from simple organism to complex organism about 30 million years ago. While Bible say, according to Bible and Genesis account of creation says that the earth is about 6,000 years old. Earth was formed or created by God 6,000 years ago, and about 4,400 years ago the great flood, Noah's flood, came on this earth. So we are trying to understand how we can answer the evolution theory which is being taught throughout the childhood, and but we are missing, we are not told about so many facts that contradicts the evolution theory. Today we are going to focus on a couple of other things like population. Talk about the population. In Jesus' time, about 2,000 years ago from now, 2,000 years ago from now, the world population was just a billion humans, 1/4 billion only. In 1800, the world population crossed 1 billion. And in 1999, the world population crossed the mark of 6 billion people on Earth. Now, think about this. If just in 2,000 years, if the world population has grown from 1/4 billion to 6 billion, and if Earth is 4.6 billion years old, then can you imagine how many people would be living on this earth at this time? Now, it is mind-boggling. 1 square inch. 1 square inch means 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. If you put that little square, then you have to fit 150,000 people in 1 square inch. If Earth is 4.6 billion years old. But we don't have. We have the population of 6 billion. It proves that Earth is not that old as we are assuming. Talk about the oldest tree on Earth. The oldest tree found on Earth is 4,300 years old. Now we know that every tree trunk has a rings, and until now we understood that every ring represents 1 year. But now it has been proved that a tree can grow more than 1 ring in 1 year, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 rings a year. So that annual ring and a tree trunk is not a good measure about how old Earth is. Well, as I said, that oldest tree is 4,300 years old only. So if Earth is that old, why we are not able to found older tree? Talk about the coral reef. By Australia, we call it a Great Coral Reef. A scientist says that the coral reef is about 4,200 years old only. If Earth is that old, 4.6 billion years old, why we don't have the coral reef that is older than 4,200 years old? There is a place called a National Ice Core Laboratory. That is another measurement people are using about predicting how old the Earth is. Now, if you take in a National Ice Core Laboratory, there are a shaft of ice that has drilled out from Antarctica, and on this shaft there are rings, black rings. You can see it. Now, scientists says that these rings represents the winter, summer, winter, summer, winter, summer. In summer, the ice melts, and when it freezes again, it gives the black ring. And by calculating how many rings are there, it is scientists believe that they are angular rings because summer and winter comes once in a year. And that is how they predict that the Earth is very old. However, the deepest drill we have drilled is about 10,000 feet, and out of 10,000 feet, we have found about 135,000 rings in that deepest drill. Well, in World War II, there were some planes were lost, and they crashed in a Greenland area. World War II, 1942, in that time frame. In 1997, somebody came up with the idea to dig out those planes. And using latest technology, they discovered the plane were buried under ice about 263 feet below from the ground surface. So when they pulled out those planes from the 263 feet below ice, they observed so many rings. Now, we knew that when World War II happened, and the planes were pulled out in 1997, about 48 years after they were buried in ice. So there should be only 48 rings or 47 rings on those ice. But we have found hundreds of ice rings. And now people agree that the ice rings are not annual rings. They are representing the warmer temperature and colder temperature. So in a 1 month, you could have warm temperature and a cold temperature, and it can produce the ring. So that is not a good measurement about how old Earth is. You talk about the stalactites. If you have visited the old caves, you might have seen the calcium deposit, mineral deposit on the surface of the cave. And scientists says that every 1,000 years they grow by 2.5 inch, and by the height of that stalactites, they measure that how old the Earth is. However, just give you a point of reference, Lincoln Memorial was built in 1922, and in the basement we have found about 50-inch of stalactites deposit. There are so many recorded evidence. If you Google it, you can find it, where in the parking garage or people's houses where the water is dripping, they have started forming that formation of deposits. So you cannot say that, okay, this deposit is so old, millions of years ago, and that's why Earth is so millions of years old, because we have found in a few years the deposits has grown significant length. All I'm trying to say is the Bible says that Earth was created, heavens and earth were created by God 6,000 years ago. And that is true fact. And all these things I mentioned, it proves that after from now, after Earth was formed 6,000 years ago, the Great Flood came about 4,400 years ago. That explains that why we don't have oldest tree, why we don't have oldest coral reef that is more than 4,200 years ago. Because Earth is new. It is not that old as evolution theory is teaching us. God bless you and thank you.